Appreciate the introduction. And the reason why we're not having the meeting on Thursday is because I'll be attending the Datalytics conference that Debbie too has set up. And so we are spending time in the day chatting to the CDOs, and I'll leave further introduction to Debbie to talk about. So Debbie, it's been great walking this journey with you in terms of setting up the Datalytics conference in Saudi, in Riyadh. And we've certainly spent a lot of time in Riyadh and really enjoy the engagement with the CDOs and the data management people. They're really excited and interested in learning more. So really look forward to what you have to say. And just for all the South Africans as well, I know Craig will be joining us a bit later. Craig started Data Fest and Datalytics in South Africa, and that's still running, and Debbie's doing it in the Gulf, in the UAE and Saudi. So that's some of the background. So if you're missing Thursday, then please join Craig when he sets it up on his time. Thanks, Debbie, all yours.
Amazing, thank you. I'll just share my screen quickly, show this. Okay, great. So as you said, I'll talk about Datalytics. I'm Debbie Botha. I'm co-founder and managing director of Tailbrook Media Middle East. I'll talk a little bit more about this fantastic wall of fame that we're creating for data analytics and AI leaders in the Middle East. It will be a coffee table book, but I'll share a bit later about that a bit later. So as you said, Howard, Tailbrook Media Middle East is co-founded by myself and Craig, but Craig is really the mastermind behind Tailbrook Media. He started it a while ago in South Africa, and in October 2022, he asked me to co-found the Middle East sister company so that we can continue the success that he's doing in South Africa in the Middle East. We started with 5 data analytics and AI leaders in a little community. So I really drive this with a community mindset. I'll talk a bit about that later. Started with 5 in December 2022. We had a roundtable with those 5 leaders, and it was magical. I was hooked, and I thought, yo, no, this will work. And today we have 150 plus leaders in our community in the Middle East, UAE and Saudi. So what we do with this community is we have, we call it luxury experiences, but really knowledge sharing experiences like roundtables, full day events. And this that you see here is a 5-star yacht trip we did with GITEX international speakers. So it's fun, but we also do a lot of knowledge sharing sessions. For example, book author roundtables. You see Joe Rice there in the middle with the glasses. He's a data engineering guru. We've had a virtual roundtable with him. You see Steve Norrie there at the back. So really interesting people they get to meet. So a bit more about Datalytics. So I would say the community itself is really only the decision makers that drive the data analytics and AI agenda in industry organizations. So it is the retail, banks, government, insurance, travel and transport, all the industry organizations. And these leaders are responsible for the budget and for the team. So when we We have a WhatsApp group and a LinkedIn group, and this provides for a peer-to-peer trusted environment for these leaders to discuss their challenges, their successes, opportunities that they have. There's lots of job opportunities that share in the WhatsApp group and so on. So I think these Datalytics events is super, super special because these leaders become like friends. They spend a full day sharing, shining, which is also nice, and learning from each other. So in November 2023, we had our first Datalytics. It was a very nice venue, Uptown Hotel in Dubai, where we had 21 speakers and 35 data analytics and AI leaders in total in the room. But I have to say, the leaders, the speakers are more like facilitators. It's we don't leave time for the audience to ask the speakers questions. The speakers ask the audience questions. And we say the event is successful if the audience spoke more than the speakers, because it is a peer-to-peer. Everybody in the audience are leaders. Everybody in the audience have experiences to share, and they love having these full-day events where they can build trusted relationships. They really become like friends, as I said. So November 23 was the first one. Then we had in May 2024, we had our next one. And by the way, the community members, the leaders, are the master of ceremonies of these events. So the first one was Tim Vincent, and the second one was Peter Allen. Peter Allen is the Chief Data and Analytics Officer of Dubai Airports.
Okay.
And the next one, the last one we had in Dubai was November, just now, with Yuri Furi. That he was the master of ceremony. He's at Samsung in Dubai, heading up business intelligence there. Nice Afrikaans guy. So yeah, so that's about the history of Datalytics in Dubai. So Saudi is our very first one. I'm sure it's going to be just as successful. I really get fantastic testimonials and feedback on these events, because it is so different from the events that we know. The audience is not being speaked at. They all participate in the discussions the whole day. So this is just a bit about the sponsors, that it is really heartwarming that we do get really good sponsors. So then now is Riyadh, 12 December. So we also have really good sponsors here: Howard, Data IQ, Snowflake, MongoDB, Capgemini, Edgematics, and yourself, Modelware. And the lead sponsor is Credo. They're actually a cybersecurity company, and they're moving into data now. So it's very interesting times for them, data analytics and AI. So here's our fantastic speaker.
I didn't expect that.
one of our great speakers, and we really appreciate that you are spending time with us and that you are bringing some of the really great chief data officers in Saudi to the room. And we're really looking forward to your session. I'll share the agenda just now. So here's, let's call them facilitators. Because as I said, I mean, it's you're going to do a whole lot of speaking, but it's more facilitating in the room. Sona Saha here on the left is our Master of Ceremony. She's a data analytics and AI leader at the motor manufacturing company in Saudi. So, and she's been in the Dubai community and now in the Saudi community when she moved over. There's Tim Carmichael, sorry, I said Vincent just now. Tim Carmichael. He's the data and analytics director at Riyadh Air. So we do have really good, and some of the sponsor facilitators also. Here's the agenda. So very good, packed agenda with all the topics of the day. That's really interesting for these leaders. We'll have Sona open, and then a keynote by Credo, the lead sponsor, and then we'll have a lively discussion on data and AI leadership. And this will be facilitated by Tim Carmichael. He's a really good teacher in leadership, and he will make sure it's a lively, engaging session. And then we have a break. We'll have Snowflake's keynote, and then we'll have a discussion on modern data management and governance. And here the moderator is Bharat Patka. He's Edgematics, and he's Chief Operating Officer. Rushi will co-facilitate that session. Bharat is an amazing CEO. He's a long-time sponsor of what we do in the Middle East, and they have a very cool data engineering platform and services. So it's always interesting to hear him speak and facilitate. So then we'll have lunch and networking. Data IQ is going to give a talk. And then we'll have a discussion on data analytics and AI strategy. And Abdul Mubin Khan, Howard, I think he's attended some training with you.
Yes, he has, yeah.
Yeah, he's now with Credo, so he will facilitate, plus his colleague.
And I'm having supper with him tonight. So
great stuff.
yeah.
I hope he will be at our 11th
yes.
December
Lots of eating this week.
Yeah, but you'll see the amazing venue, that terrace that I spoke about. It's absolutely beautiful. So then another break, and then we'll have a discussion on or a keynote by MongoDB and Capgemini. They gave a keynote at Datalytics Dubai. They're a dual city sponsor. And I really enjoyed their session, so it promises to be very good. And then, of course, the data and AI maturity session, which will be facilitated by yourself, Howard. And really looking forward to that session, talking about challenges, business use cases, especially when it comes also to responsible AI and those things. So it's not a day that will end at 5 and begin at 9. We will have not too strenuous day. It will be fun. It will be engaging. But the important thing is right at the end, when we take our group photo, we will have the Wall of Fame celebrations. And let me see if I have that picture here now. Yeah, the Wall of Fame, which is a coffee table book that we're preparing for the community. So it's not the sponsors of Datalytics November in Dubai and Riyadh will have their logos at the end of the book. So we're very proud to showcase you. But the Wall of Fame is for the industry leaders that attended Datalytics Dubai November full day, and those that attended Datalytics Riyadh full day. So they will be featured with a photo, a 200-word bio, and it will be a hardbound coffee table book that I will produce it in December to mid-Jan. It will be available possibly in January.
Right.
And I wanted to share this about the first Datalytics we had. We'll do this again. We didn't have time this time to run awards, but this is just an example of comments that Douglas Lanny gave.
Oh.
He was one of our judges at our first Datalytics. And he was really, really thoughtful in the comments he gave to the winners of our award ceremony. So that's also something we'll do in the future.
Yes.
So that's about it.
Good. I have a question, Debbie, just in terms of uh, sort of there's this mix that's happening between the vendors that are there, for example, MongoDB, and then you have the CDOs, and sometimes some of the executives feel that they don't really want to go there for listening, and so they really want to understand knowledge and that. And is that something that the vendors focus on is not so much punting the products, but how do they enable CDOs to make decisions, choose the right technology? Is there a sort of brief that you go on? And I know we as DAMA, we try not to get involved in sales, but what are the principles? What are the important messages?
Yeah, exactly. That's an excellent question. I forgot to mention it. The sponsors are briefed that they are not allowed to sell under any circumstances.
Oh, okay.
It's all about the conversations in the room. So it's by all means teaching them their thought leadership, but
Right.
there's no demos. There's no, oh, but my tool can do this, or oh, we can do this for you.
Right.
It's all around the discussions in the room. And as I said, well, when they give their keynote, I always tell them, please tell the audience exactly what you do for 5 or so minutes, so that the audience are clear. This is what this company does, and so that it's not just a up in the air conversation.
Right.
So yes, no, they are, and also they don't have a booth outside of the venue.
Okay.
They are in the room with these leaders the full day. We ask them very strictly to not take any of the leaders out of the room while we have our sessions. They can do it during breaks or whatever else, but conversations stay in the room. What is said at Datalytics stays at Datalytics. We don't record anything. We don't, it's a very trusted and safe space for these leaders to discuss their challenges, successes, opportunities. And the sponsors are welcome to sit and take note of all the opportunities that they find in the room. Those are qualified leads that they have, but the follow-up is done after Datalytics.
Okay. So if I take an example, someone like MongoDB, their focus would be, how to make use of that NoSQL database in terms of achieving business objectives, and it's around how do you make use of these technologies to achieve insights that you wouldn't get with a relational database, as an example. Is that the type of
Spot on. That's exactly what they were talking about at the Dubai Datalytics. Is they gave almost like a story why a
Yes.
vector database is
Okay.
really the best one for large language models and Gen AI and so on.
Okay.
It was really,
Okay.
really good.
Nice. Thank you, Debbie. Let's see if we've got some questions from the group, and Drew, maybe we can start with you just to get the questions going. Any comments or questions from yourself?
I like the idea of call it the openness and the non-sell, the non-hard sell, but understanding what is available and where things are going. So Debbie, I take my hat off to that. And I think that's something maybe we should be considering here as well.
You
there
can do it with Craig.
Yeah. She's just joined us. No, that's no.
Craig is the mastermind behind Datalytics. He designed it. I'm just following his lead.
All right, we'll have to ask Craig nicely, Craig. I think we can get there. But yeah, I think it's wildly exciting. And what's fascinating for me is that it almost seems like it doesn't matter where you are in the world, the focus is on data, on analytics, and on doing the right stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see Howard's got his hand up now.
And no need to reinvent the wheel. I mean, the things that are that won't give you a competitive advantage, rather learn from each other and get it over and done with as quickly as possible.
Debbie, just further to that point, this whole question about competitive advantage and everything else, there's so much movement of people across organizations that argument is almost null and void. It's how the companies actually action what they are doing and drive their progress rather than trying to be protective and secretive and all the rest. But that's only an opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
So there is a question from George, and he says, is this event open to the public? So Debbie, I'd love you to respond, because it is open, but it's not entirely open to everybody. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing that.
Yeah, it is only for the leaders, the decision makers, driving data analytics and AI in industry organizations, and they must be responsible for the budget and for the team. This is so that the discussions in the room are peer-to-peer discussions. It just makes it a much more intimate but relevant conference for these leaders.
Okay. Thanks, Debbie. George, did that? Okay, I see you got a thumbs up. Is that answering your question, George?
Yes, Howard, thank you. I just was also wondering, how would that information get to the the rest of the people, or is that just information that is shared amongst experts and they go out, get their takeaways, but how does it reach the bigger stage, the bigger audience?
So the bigger audience is what Craig runs in South Africa, which is absolutely brilliant. It's called Data Fest. And that is absolutely brilliant for the broader data analytics and AI lovers. And it's just as packed with fantastic content. And I will bring that to the Middle East end of next year.
Right, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And George, just to share what I do every now and again is when I attend some conference, sometimes there are some amazing speakers, and what we will do is see if we can invite some of them to present on the community webinars. So you'll be able to, some of them will be able to present on a webinar, others may present at Data Fest or in public. So we'll see who's keen and who's, who would like to share some of that. And a lot of the times it's a lot of the vendors presenting, so the CDOs are not. There's more discussion there.
Yeah. Great, thanks.
So how would you say Craig is on?
Yes, he is on. I saw him join right on time.
Maybe we can give him time to
that's
discuss
correct.
how he started Meetup Media, what he does with how he thought of Datalytics, and then talk about his Data Fest also, if that's fine.
Fantastic. Craig, glad to have you on.
How's it, Howard? How are you?
All right, and yourself, sir? I see the running's going well.
Always good, thanks. Yeah, running in your neck of the woods, pretty brutal.
All right. I'm actually in Saudi at the moment, so you're probably far away.
Very flat, but very hot.
Yes, very flat. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least the weather is now nice. We're both at 25 degrees, Dubai and Riyadh.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe before I jump in, it would be just good, maybe Howard or Debbie or Drew, you can just give me a bit of background and context into this meeting, and just kind of the types of people on the line and all that sort of thing as well.
Okay, so from my side, Craig, this is what we have is our data science, big data and data science webinar. So lots of people are interested in analytics and AI from the DAMA community, and we've got people all the way around the world from different levels. So it's not just CDOs, but there are professionals, and there are a few people that I've trained in the past that are on. So we were really interested, and we've been sharing with the local Saudi people about the Datalytics and the benefit of networking, the professional network in that community. And that's certainly what we would love. What we asked Debbie to share on is what do people get out of these type of events? And it was lovely to see the comment from Pandile, who said, that's refreshingly fantastic, when Debbie was describing the way in which she conducts the Datalytics. So some of the feedback that we've got. Debbie presented the agenda and the approach that you have to the Saudi and the background in terms of what's happening in Dubai.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess, I've been working with the South African data community and actually the Middle East since about end of 2015, early 2016. And 3 years ago now, I started Meetup Media. The company I was working for previously left South Africa, which is great. Kind of, we kind of picked up and then filled the void there. Exactly. And so just really, I think over the last decade, I've been very passionate about the data community and bringing people together to share their experiences, successes, failures, etc. Because I think a lot of conferences are, all too often there's a speaker and they talk about quite high level success stories, and very rarely does it get super engaging where an audience of senior Datalytics professionals can actually really have open, honest conversations about where they're at in terms of their data maturity, the usage of data, and the sort of value that they're deriving from that. And what I found over the years, and specifically over the last sort of 3 years in the Middle East and Africa, and I think our audience finds this as well, is that everybody to a degree has very, very similar challenges. And I think Datalytics, in terms of its format, where it's a very small audience of invite-only senior people and the format is all about deep conversation, not just presentation after presentation after presentation. What it's unearthed in the comments that we get back is that people, before coming to Datalytics and before engaging with the community, didn't realize that they were, for the most part, on par with their peers, not necessarily competitors always. But I think a lot of people think that they're a million miles behind in terms of data maturity, data governance, data quality, actually sort of insights to action, all these sorts of things. And I think what people have realized is that most people have the same challenges, and it's typically not the process and technology, right? It's more the people side of things. It's the culture, it's the executive buy-in, it's the getting business to actually use the insights that are coming from the data, obviously the architecture around where does the data sit, etc. And I think that's really been the value of Datalytics and the other smaller events that we've run. And I started Datalytics, and it's contradictory now because I do DataFest in South Africa, which is, like 300 people. But we started it on the basis that I found very large conferences held very little value actually for attendees. There's only so much you can learn from each and every presentation. It might be one or two nice ideas, but no one's going to teach you about data governance or the problems that they've got with data governance, quality, culture, team setup, etc. in a presentation. And while there's still place for that, I think there's a premium now on having these deep conversations, especially in markets where the data maturity is low but growing. And I think Saudi certainly fits into that. I think the Middle East or Dubai's fit into that category for a while, but we see some really excellent things now. And I just think, it's a good opportunity for that community to get together. I think, very idealistically and altruistically, the success of what we do is demonstrated by people within the community that we manage and create and curate. Debbie's obviously doing a fantastic job of that in the Middle East, is where they reach out to each other outside of our events. They're not going to go and compete and put on a Datalytics, but if one person meets someone who has a solve for a data governance or an analytics or a culture problem that they've got, and after the event they meet up for coffee or have a call or whatever to further discuss that, and that's really, for me, that's community, right? Otherwise it really is just a conference. The community is kind of, transcends just what Debbie and I are doing. And that's really, what we want to achieve. I don't, think, as I said, that it will come to a point where the community goes rogue and does their own events. That we still have a very important role to play. But that's really our mission, is the communities of professionals who share a lot of information with each other through our events and thereafter as well. And for those of you obviously not on it, most of you, if not all, Debbie's WhatsApp group with the data community in Dubai that she's built is amazing. The amount of information shared on there and people helping each other is incredible. I think it's a true community outside of just the event. So that's really our mission. Love to take it to other parts of the world, of course, and be involved with that sort of thing. But I think the Datalytics format is definitely a very strong way for us to kick off. But obviously we offer DataFest, etc. as well. So,
and if I may add, or just a comment, Craig, is for example, the last Datalytics we had in November in Dubai, you and I didn't actually lift a finger. It was all the previous two, yes, we did have to facilitate some of the panels and so on, but it's maturing so much that the community drives it themselves. They are the MC, they drive the polls, they sit there with a computer running the presentations. So it's truly, we say it's by the community, with the community, and for the community.
Yeah, nice way to sum it up.
Thanks, Debbie and Craig. So maybe just to open up to the floor, I know I've spent time with Michael Yaya talking through some of the technical CIO challenges. Michael, anything from your side? I know this would probably interest you quite a lot.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Yes, yeah. No, I think it's a very interesting perspective. I really like the aspect of community, because I think trust in every single industry, and especially in financial services where I spend most of my time, trust is the #1 currency. And once you have that trust, then you can really understand, or you have partners who can really understand what your problems are, and they can give you some realistic timelines. One of the things that I've also found in the financial industry is the fact that they have these working groups, and often there is coordinated pushback to regulators based on the current state where things are and based on the timeline. So simple examples, I remember when GDPR was supposed to come in, there was some talk around the timelines, and often there were some, I would call it back channeling, where you have people come together and say, look, you have this problem, I have the same problem, I think the regulators having this, I think we should have a unified voice to come together and say, it'll take us longer than 1 year or maybe 2 years to fix these problems because we have people issues and we have outdated systems, and we try to find COBOL developers, but we couldn't find them, etc., etc., etc. And so that coziness and trust is very important. But I also like the fact that some of the key findings don't necessarily have to remain within that group, because the moment you find a solution that you feel might benefit other people either in the organization or even some of your, we call them peers in the industry. This I guess probably goes for vendors more than members, is that a vendor can say, I'm building on my experience with clients that have these particular types of problems, and sometimes they may even help you preempt certain problems with some idea of possible solution avenues. So yeah, it sounds like something really, really interesting, and I think that I would like to hear more about some of the initiatives that are happening and see where we go from there. Because I know right here in Switzerland, there's a massive push now for data to take center stage. Not just data engineering. Data engineering was the star child, still is the main child, because now the cloud companies are coming in, providing end-to-end solutions on the cloud for data engineering, for AI. But on the other side, now people are talking about the quality of the data. I think LLMs came and people were like, oh, this is hallucinating. What's happening? Why is this not correct? And so now people are paying a lot more attention to the quality of data, and people are now beginning to realize the importance of proper structures in place, the proper data governance processes, the proper data quality certification, and also the manpower behind that. You need teams of people who know exactly how to test for data quality, how to implement that, how to catch things early, and how to make sure that these are embedded in the data pipeline. So yeah, I see this as an area that's going to continue growing and probably being exported to other parts of the world as well, from South Africa and the Middle East.
Switzerland is a good one. Great.
Yes,
Yeah.
Switzerland is a very special one, because I think Switzerland has been one of the pioneers of data residency, and so therefore they have always had a culture of being extremely, I wouldn't say secretive, but extremely guarded about the data. Protective, that's what I was looking for, yes. Protective about the data, yes. And so often you need to give them the ability to trust that whenever you come in and do something, you will adhere to their standards and policies, and that you will also ease any concerns they have around security, duplication, data leakage, etc., etc.
Thanks, Michael. Any further comments, Debbie?
I liked that your audience is so broad.
Yeah. It is.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think just from my side, I think, it's what I have found, because I did some work with the chief data officer community across Europe and the UK many years ago, and had some exposure to Australia and the US as well. And I was always asked a question by South Africans, how far behind are we versus the rest of the world in terms of our data and data usage and all that sort of thing. And I think for me, what I've found, and my answer always was that it's not a country specific thing for the most part. Of course, there's countries that are going to be, on the whole, a million miles behind. But in fairly developed economies, I think a lot of it in terms of data maturity and usage and all that sort of thing really comes down to the organization. Because you can have a very, big organization that's a little bit archaic and, you know, have people at the top who don't believe in data or the quality of data and all the foundations, and they are typically a lot further behind than, you know, someone in a third world country with, you know, whether it be a bank or retailer, whatever, that has a very strong executive support structure and sponsorship in terms of data across the organization, and not just for the fancy AI bits, but the more important data foundation bits, governance, quality management, etc. So I think, you know, so much of the conversations we have are transferable across most locations, most countries, etc. So yeah, I mean, I think Debbie half joked about Datalytics Switzerland, but it certainly could be a thing. I think it does take someone to bring the community together and have those conversations, because all too often, I think, you know, from a conference business perspective, the focus is on the bigger the event, the more profitable it will be, but that doesn't always mean it will be valuable. And for us, that's the key thing, is to make sure that's valuable for those attending.
Also, I can maybe add that I've done my EMBA. Fortunately, I already had 50 in the community when I did my EMBA. So I did the research on the impact of data analytics and AI leaders in industry organizations in the Middle East, actually UAE. And while I was doing that research, I had to obviously benchmark it against global standards. And it was so amazing, especially Randy Bean is doing a lot of research on the impact of, or the success, or he calls it a bit differently, but the research results for UAE was very much the same as the Fortune 500 companies in terms of how successful they are, the normal things, what are they investing in, you know, all those type of things. And coming January, I'm updating that research, and we plan to do the research in South Africa, in the Middle East, and wherever else we can run it to do. It's fascinating results for these companies. You're on mute, Howard.
Thanks very much, Debbie. That's great. That research is so helpful in terms of being able to open up the discussions and then just share your feedback with them, because otherwise you're going to go through a specialized environment and it's quite difficult.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Any other questions?